So we're doing lightning rounds today. Our special innovation is we have no speakers. Now, what we'll do is we'll have the slides, the speakers will jump up and they'll speak. They'll all speak for 5 minutes each. If they speak any longer, there's a taser attached to this and it will slowly electrocute them. So they will be on time. And then if we have time at the end of it, we will have questions. Okay, so, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce anybody's name. They will come up and say their name, but it will be up there because I don't want to be any more embarrassed than I already am. So, let's get going. You're out. Yep, there you go. Have that, and have that. Oh, yeah. Okay, go for it. That works, right?
So, yeah. Does it hurt? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, seems to work. Hello, everyone. My name is Manuel Daubenberger. Maybe next time. I'm an investigative journalist from Germany, mainly working for the German public broadcast, and I have the privilege of starting this lightning round very lightly with an introduction into chemistry, a task that I'm absolutely not qualified for and that 5 minutes won't do the trick for, but so enjoy the ride. We basically did this investigation into Western garment brands using cotton from allegedly Xinjiang, the region of Xinjiang in China, for the German public broadcast. It took us 1.5 years, and the starting point for this was basically a report on the forced labor in the cotton industry in Xinjiang in 2020, and the reports basically said that Western garment brands might also be using cotton from forced labor. Obviously, all those brands denied any wrongdoing, but they also claimed that they would then not reach out to their suppliers and make sure that they don't source from the region anymore. We had our doubts about that, knowing how the cotton market, how the garment market works, knowing that 20% of worldwide cotton is actually coming from Xinjiang. Yeah, we doubted those claims by the companies, and we asked ourselves the question, shouldn't there be a way to actually test those claims of the Western garment brands? And luckily, we found this technology called isotope analysis that I will briefly introduce to you. So what is an isotope analysis? What are isotopes? It's basically a chemical analysis that has been established for decades. It's been used by authorities. It's been used by media. Isotopes are, briefly said, a variation of chemical elements. These variations of elements differ depending on the region that a material is from. Essentially, one can say that the geography of a region, the climate of a region actually affects, let's say, organic materials like cotton, wood, or food crops. With that, you can kind of create a regional fingerprint for any given region, and you can then, in the end, basically differentiate whether cotton, in our case, originates from Xinjiang or the neighboring Kyrgyzstan. This is the German spelling, by the way. There's not a typo. So, because these sessions are there so that you hopefully have some takeaways on whether you might want to conduct it yourself, I'm going to introduce a little bit on how we conducted it and what you would need in order if you want to test the origin of a material via this method called isotope analysis. First thing, you need to have isotopes in material. Technically, all chemical elements contain those isotopes, but not all of them can be tested through those methods that the lab used, that we use for this test. So it works best for organic materials, in our case cotton, but it has also been done for wood, it has been done for ivory, it can be done for any sort of food crops. The second challenge for this kind of research is to find a lab. There's a finite number of labs who are actually capable of doing these kind of tests, and the tests cost some money, so you need to have funds also to actually run those tests. We're talking about a couple of €100 per sample that you want to test, and usually you want to test. In our case, we tested about 25 pieces of garment in the end in order to produce the best kind of results. The third thing you need are samples from the region that you want to test against. You either need to, depending on, sometimes there is already a database, a global database for these kind of things. If there's not, like in our case, You need to get enough reference samples, in our case, raw cotton from Xinjiang. The lab could then use those samples to establish some sort of an isotopic fingerprint for the region, and then later on test the garment against this isotopic fingerprint. The fourth thing is a database of other relevant regions of the world. In this case, in our case, with the cotton, meaning other important cotton growing regions of this world, like Brazil, India, the US, Australia, so that you can also test your samples against those other reference samples, meaning you basically verify that something is or might with a very high likelihood be from Xinjiang, and falsify that it might come from any other given region of this world. And the last one is unfortunately still additional proof, because science usually just provides probabilities and never complete, accurate, or scientists are also very careful in saying like this must be like this. So it really helps to combine this method of isotope analysis with regular supply chain analysis using databases, import-export databases like Panjiva, supplier lists of companies to have additional proof to know where the original cotton might be coming from, what was the supplier using, in our case cotton, in other cases other products. By using this method, we managed to prove then in the end with a very likelihood that clothes from brands like Adidas, Hugo Boss and Puma are still containing cotton from the region of Xinjiang, even though they till today claim otherwise. This was a very brief introduction, and unfortunately I have to leave mid-session to go to the airport. But if you have, as I'm pretty sure, more questions about isotopes, and if you are interested in it, please feel free to reach out to me or my colleague that I conducted the research with, and we're happy to answer any questions or let you know how to collaborate on isotope issues or the like. Thanks so much for your time.
So stay where you are. Don't go away. So we have to, we're going to have next speaker, Alexandra, but we have to change the slides. We'll change the slides. And since I know is running off, we can just take one or two questions while we're doing that. So any questions? Just get that out of the way so you can get a chance to ask him anything.
Yes, Charlotte Ogo. Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Charlotte Ogo. I'm from a Danish media called Danwatch. How did you get the samples from Xinjiang?
Probably I would need another 5 minutes to go into that, and which I don't have. It's we use different kinds of methods. We use basically investigative methods. We approached possible sources in the region that might go shopping for us there or might be there. We reached out to colleagues, very brave colleagues that are working with China in order to get this cotton, because in the last couple of years, cotton has gotten very, very sensitive, a very sensitive issue, so it's not that easy to source it from outside China. But I can tell you private a little bit more about it, but it would be a little bit too time intense to talk more specifically about it.
One more question. Anybody else? Anything? It's almost worth it to ask questions all across the room.
You also need to also explain how China pushed back on you, and you used some very clever verification to show that it wasn't slave. Didn't they say for your investigation that it was tractors picking the cotton and not human slaves, and you counted back? I thought that was just as good as what you did with the isotopes.
Thanks for that compliment. Yeah, it was another bigger stuff that we did. We used basically satellite analysis together with some people who actually know how to do that, trying to investigate the cotton fields from above. And in short, it's if you machine harvest a field, just to say what the claim that China made. China says there's no more slavery going on the fields because there's more and more machine harvesting and not hand picking. And in order to prove or to test whether there's actually this amount of machine harvesting taking place, we use satellite analysis to see how fast the cotton is actually harvested. And So by using, like, basically cotton fields are white, and if they're harvested, they're brown. So you can see from above whether it's basically harvested within 3 days or 5 days or longer. And by using the satellite data, we could prove some of the Chinese propaganda wrong when it comes to like the amount of machine harvesting that they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Impressive. Oh, yes. Yep. Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about an ongoing investigation series that I'm doing for the French media outlet Disclose. Let me time this. I was raised as a good boy, so let's do that properly. What we want to show is actually the impact of big financial institutions backing fossil fuel projects around the world. We wanted, to sum it up, to bridge the gap between classical, let's say, financial reporting and more traditional on-the-ground reporting. And so the ultimate goal is to hold financial institutions accountable with then what happens on the ground. We wanted to tell that financial story a bit differently with more of a human touch to it. So what we did is we combined more classical financial data analysis with traditional on-the-ground reporting. And to do that, we worked with Profundo. It's a not-for-profit independent research organization based in the Netherlands. And so how we proceeded is that the first step was to investigate a given energy sector. So up until that day, we worked on coal, shale gas, oil, and will be other episodes. And so we identified the most dangerous projects around the world in this sector where we thought that we would find compelling human stories. Then we listed the companies involved in that sector, in that business, from upstream to downstream. And then what we did is that we sent that list to Profundo, who then did financial analysis on all the financial services and backing that these companies got from international financial institutions, including French ones, which were specifically of interest to us. So they are working with several financial databases, including Bloomberg, Refinitiv, and IJ Global. So you get in the end something that looks like this. So it's like huge data sets about bond holdings, shareholdings, underwritings, loans, be it general corporate proceeding loans or project finance. And so one of the upside to that technique was that we didn't have to rely on aggregated data from NGOs or from the financial institutions themselves. So the last step was then to find a story in these data sets. So in one case, we found a project finance of a particular French bank that was in contradiction with their policies. In another one that will be published soon, we will look at all the indirect financial support that French banks and other banks with media partners are providing to one of the dirtiest energy in the world. Can say much more about it now. So by indirect, I mean everything except project finance, and banks are doing it more and more. They know that when they do project financing on a really dirty energy, they risk their image, so they go around that, and that's the story we'll tell. And we told several stories. So one of the stories we told is about the German coal sector. And we showed that the French banks were very much supporting RWE, the German energy giant, and that with a German NGO, we showed that they were indirectly responsible for tens of thousands of premature deaths caused by these coal mines. And here you see the report I did. I went to a protest camp that was then evacuated by the police a few weeks later, and they actually camped undergrounds of a village that was to be destroyed to allow RWE to extend its coal mine. And there was a lot of coverage on that. And so when our story came out, we had like really solid financial data tying French banks to that company. And we also had the underground story, for example, with this guy here, Reinhard. He is one of the last inhabitants of another village that has to be destroyed for that same coal mine. I think there was a pretty powerful way to tell a story that ties financial data to really human stories. We will publish another story next week, actually, about how shale gas, we published a few ones about it that you see here, impacts local communities. And so this is the same thing we did. The first step was to show how French finance supports that industry in contradiction to some of their own policies. And then the second step is to go on the ground and show what it means for people. And our goal is to put pressure on banks, for them to clean up their act. And we think that it's more difficult for stakeholders and banks to turn a blind eye to a report when you really show them human impact, and also from image-wise. So I think I'm a bit over 5 minutes, so sorry. Thank you for listening.
Right, no ice cream for you. Can we switch back to the other PowerPoint? You have to watch all this all over again. Okay. I can't pronounce your name.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sanne Breimer, so that's my name. I do several different things. I work as a freelancer in journalism, and I'm here to present Project Oasis that I worked on with Sembra Media. Project Oasis is a year-long research project into the sustainability of digital native media, independent digital native media, and we mapped the landscape in more than 40 countries in Europe. Digital native media, if you ask what it is, well, we think we define it as media that started online and still publish their content exclusively or primarily on the internet. And we often also call them entrepreneurial journalists who start an organization like this. So over half of the outlets in our research dedicate resources to investigative journalism, which I think is interesting news for this conference. A lot cover society and human rights issues. We have non-profit organizations in our research, but also for-profits. A lot of them started the last decade, but we also have the older ones that are from the early internet years. We saw that quite a lot of the founders are women, which I think is good news for the women in journalism. Most of them have 2 or more founders, and we see a lot of collaboration within this landscape. So why would you start a media organization like this? Well, we asked in our interviews questions about this. We did 45-minute interviews with the media founders. A lot of the reasons have to do with journalistic independence or starting an organization to fill a gap in the media landscape in a country. And in Central and also Eastern Europe, we see more reasons like media capture and political polarization. We have outlets that are completely run by volunteers, but we also have ones that earn more than 10 million a year, and I think that must be interesting. That already is an interesting reason to have a look at the directory and learn from all the ideas. We have 540 now in our directory, but it really is a starting point. We launched the project in April, and we're still adding new outlets to the directory. So if we look at the revenue sources, most of them use grants as a source of income. But as you can see, audience support, reader revenue is quite high. The for-profit ones have quite a lot of advertising income. And so you also see on the other side that there is a distinction between for-profit and non-profit in sources of income. And in our research report, we have much more findings about this. We created 5 business maturity tiers to show you what is the distinction in how much annual revenue they make, for example, after a certain years of existence. And what I personally think is interesting here is if you look at tier 2 as opposed to tier 4, then it really makes a difference. You can exist for 9 years and have around 35,000 annual revenue, or you can be at the same time have a lot more revenue. And so that is one of the interesting findings in our research, that if you have a dedicated sales and business development person in your organization, it really drives the revenue. So it's worth investing in a person like that, revenue goes up almost 6 times if you have expertise on that topic in your organization. We also have an interesting relationship between the founders and annual revenue. At least 1 female, 1 male founder, that mix gets the most revenue. 2 male founders is also not too far behind, but we do see a gap with outlets that are only founded by women. We did not go into the why of that, and I think that is interesting also for funders to look at their team, and we often give money to other people who maybe look like us, you know, so those are things that can be interesting to do further research on. We wanted to create this directory really as a foundation to identify these new kinds of media that serve the public interest. We had a list of criteria for inclusion. You can find it on our website. We wanted to collect the data and show the scale of this landscape. For people here in the room to learn from each other, but also for funders, academics, freelance journalists maybe who have a certain beat and want to write for outlets in Europe. So you can go to the directory and look up, search on content, for example, and find the outlet that, fits your beat. This is the website. You can see we have the media directory and the reports. It's free, accessible. The report, you find the important findings from our data and the conclusions. We also have summaries per country. So it gives a little bit an idea per country what is happening in all different languages also. And this is what the directory looks like. You can find directories on name, on location where they're based, but also if they have a woman founder or not, which content they focus on, what type of journalism, investigative journalism, constructive journalism, etc. Thanks to our partners, because we could not have done this without them. It's really a collaborative project, and that's it. You can reach out to me if you like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not going to try this one either. Yep.
Oops. And
you didn't use this one?
yeah, I left them in the
Sorry.
in the R9 room, please.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. We'll go find your slides.
Yeah, I'll start. My name is Evgenia Drozdova. I'm a data journalist of the Ukrainian media Texte.org.ua that is based in Kyiv. And today I want to talk about an interesting approach of using Sentinel-1 images in your data-driven projects. So, as you may know, Sentinel-1 images is the radar type of images. So, they This satellite doesn't take pictures of the Earth, but it sends signals to the Earth, radio signals, and registers how the signals reflect from the Earth's surface. Before the full-scale invasion of Russia started, we used this metal sensing ability of Sentinel-1 to identify the Russian military forces that being amassed near Ukraine border. Why we did this? Because due to the operating principles of Sentinel-1, it could be very helpful in detecting metal, big masses of metal. This is our project. You could follow this link and watch if you want. And if you look to this image, you may notice that here we have this Maxar high-resolution images and with the metal vehicles, military vehicles, and over there we have Sentinel-1 image for the same period. It is November 2021, so it's several months before the full-scale invasion started. So this metal vehicles appeared as colored dot. You could argue that an urbanized area will also appear in such a way. Yes, it is. But if you look if you compare this in dynamic, you will notice that the stationary objects will remain the same, but these vehicles, they disappear. This is the images from 2020. So you could use this approach to find a lot of masses of metal. And you also can repeat some kind of this project, because this is the link to Sentinel Hub, and if you will choose the SAR urban composition and pick the same coordinates, you will find you will get the same result. This year we use the same metal sensing ability of Sentinel-1 to track ships in Caspian Sea. This is also a link to the project, and what we find that there are a sizable increase in marine traffic near the two biggest Iranian ports and in Volga-Don Canal that ships used to go to the port of Astrakhan in Russia. So if you Google ship detection with Sentinel-1, you will find a great amount of articles, and the complexity of algorithm will depend only on the precision you require. So if you want to do some kind of not very complexity research, it could be very good, and it would be very helpful taking into account that different services like marine traffic, like Data Elastic API, like Ship Explorer, they don't allow you to get their data free, and they are very expensive. And what more important, that if you want to track several ports for several years, so you will reach your query limit much faster than you will able to complete even a preliminary research. So this is the same picture for Iranian port of Amirabad. And also, if you want to see how ships look at the Sentinel-1, you can follow this link. This is Sentinel Hub. And obviously, if you want to track for more periods like week, months, or year, you probably need some tools like Google Earth Engine, which is free. But just to look these dots, it's metal, it's ship, and around it water, and they reflect radio signals in different ways.
Wow.
Yeah. Contact me if you're interested in that. Thank you.
You get extra points for very fast. Or you get to see all, you get all of the presentations all over again. Okay, there we go. Yes, yeah, you need that. Okay.
So hello, my name is Tanas Strobukis. I'm a data journalist working for a non-profit journalism organization. based in Athens, Greece. The topic I will be talking about you today is a project we started, which is political speech analysis with AI. So what this project is about, we analyzed pre-election political speeches of Greece's main political parties, and we did so by utilizing state-of-the-art AI models and algorithms. What we wanted to find? We wanted to find what sentiment they convey in their speeches, and the dominant sentiment was categorized into as positive, neutral, or negative. The level of political polarization in its speech, if populism is detected, and we wanted to identify the named entities, such as opponents, countries, groups of people. Last but not least, we wanted to find which issues they raise in political discourse, specifically the main topic of his speech, for instance, accountability, agricultural policy, civil protection, corruption, etc. Also, we looked at what percentage of their speech did they devote to present their political agenda or to criticize their opponent. Our findings, before I go to the methodology, our findings provided a more in-depth analysis of the campaign and detailed analysis that was useful after the elections when we tried to make sense of the results. For instance, the leader of the opposition, Alexis Tsipras, which you might already know his name, who saw his party ratings plummet, expressed almost negative sentiment on almost all topics, spent almost half of his speeches overall to criticize his opponent instead of presenting his political agenda. And at the same time, despite him being the leader of a left-wing political party, he didn't spend time talking about migration or human rights. So a few words about our methodology. We received the speeches in written form, most of them. Journalists broke down each speech into paragraphs, and then we used AI to translate the speech into English, and then ChatGPT to correct the translation. And I can talk about that later. Then we did the analysis, and then we validated the data. We followed a similar strategy for when we received the speech in video or audio format. The models we used are DeepL Transcriptor and ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. For our analysis, instead of asking bluntly ChatGPT to detect polarization and populism, we provided with a definition written by a political scientist, and then we fed the algorithm with the definition and asked to rate each paragraph based on this definition. That way, we overcame the bias of ChatGPT, which, by the way, is substantial. There are quite a few ways to ask ChatGPT things. We used mostly the zero and few prompt analysis, few shot prompting. We use the zero shot prompting when we don't provide context in our question. This method works well, for instance, in sentiment analysis. And here is an example which we don't have time to see. Few shot prompting is better for theme analysis and polarization and populism detection. In few shot prompting, we provide context, and sometimes we even provide some examples of the answers that we want, what the answers we expect should look like. And here is an example which we're going to see. At the end, this is what the prompt looked like. I know it's a lot. Someone is calling me. This is a prompt that what the prompt looked like, and we fed each paragraph to the system. So I've gathered some interesting links. You can find my presentation later at the GIJN website, and I will also post it on Twitter under the hashtag of GIJC23. You cannot do this project alone. We were a team of 16 people, including journalists, computer scientists, and a political scientist. And that's it. Thank you. Those of you who don't know, next week we have an international journalism forum in Athens, and you are all welcome.
Thank you. I want to say everybody is falling to time. Like, I didn't expect anyone to listen to me, but they're all falling time. So we will have lots of question time afterwards, which is great. I'm not used to people listening to me.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about a tool that we have developed at ICIJ internally for some of our fact-checking and validation purposes. It's called Prophecies. So if you're not familiar with ICIJ, we are the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. That's why we typically use ICIJ, because it's such a long name. And what we like to do is we provide data for our media partners and our reporters for the investigations that we work on together. And we often have a ton of data to fact check. Some of the data cannot be fed into the tool that I'm going to show you, because typically we do a lot of research. We enrich the data through the research process, and then it means that the data is quite complex in terms of sourcing and fact checking. But the tool that Prophecies is about making sure that you have a system that enables you to fact check and validate data more quickly than if you had to use Google Sheets or another spreadsheet software. And it's actually quite fun to use. It became quite addictive, and it turned something that was very repetitive and annoying to actually an addictive experience. So yeah, typically what we do is that we do research, then we have fact-checking by 1, 2, 3 team members, depending on the difficulty of the task. We have validation by our data editor, then we share it with our partners, typical. The issues that we have with this kind of process is that we might have a massive amount of data to fact-check. I mean, you can read the slides, so I'm not going to bore you with reading the slide. But it's typical things that a data team might run into in the fact-checking process. So with Prophecies, we just wanted to turn this into a fun experience for everybody. So we wanted to have, at first we had a version of Prophecies that was quite, it was amazing, but it was a little clunky because it had a lot of different features. And we work with our tech team, who's amazing, and our tech team has a UX designer, and she thought a lot about how to make this task addictive. So what we used it for in our case, and you might be able to see if it's a use case that you can apply in your own context, is that at ICIJ we publish an online database called the Offshore Leaks database that you might have used. And what we need to do to publish the data online is that we have to prepare it and we have to fact check it. And we have to attach properties to the data. And this is the task that was very repetitive in our case, because we have a lot of addresses. The address might be linked to a company, it might be linked to a person, and we have to attach countries to those addresses. So we did that task automatically. We attached for each address that we had in our data, in the offshore companies' data that we got access to through leaks. We attached those properties automatically, but then we needed our human team to check if those properties were correct, the countries attached to specific addresses were correct. And if you imagine that in a spreadsheet, it would just be a lot of rows that you have to go through, and it's very tiring for the mind. So what we did is that you had the address, a country attached to it, and then we had 3 different prompts for the person who's validating at the time. So let's say you're reviewer 1, you look at an address, you look at the country attached to it, and you say, yes, I agree, no, I disagree, or I don't know, or you leave a comment. So we had a few options. The good thing that you need to think about in terms of making sure that it works is that you actually agree on what yes means. I know it sounds ridiculous, but depending on what the property is, you have to actually explain, if you choose yes, it means this, if you choose no, it means that, so that everybody's on the same page. And then depending on how fast you are, if two people review the data and both agree that it's a yes, the third person can just close the case. So it's a very quick process. Yeah, we have comments. We didn't use many comments because we were just so addicted. We went through the data quickly. Yeah, so these are a few use cases that we think would be perfect for prophecies. And I posted the link to our GitHub repository, so you can actually download the tool already. It's online, it's open source. I have to say that we have not provided the documentation. I checked with our technical team, so this is a small this is a small detail. We're working on it. Which it's actually quite important. But this is still in the development stage, so we used it a lot during after the Pandora Papers project. We just had a lot of data to go through, and we were exhausted. So when our tech team came up with this approach, we were just super happy about it, and we fact-checked the data super fast. So it just goes to show how, yeah, we can work with the different teams and just find an easy solution. And I would be very, very interested if some of you get to test this tool and get back to us, because it can be used for many different cases. And that's it. If you have any questions, there's a huge team behind it, but I just put up my name because I'm vain. But I can put you in touch with our technical team. Thank you.
Thank you. And amazingly, we are on our last presenter, which means you'll have lots of time for questions.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Zidane. I'm an investigative journalist. I'm based in Egypt. Yeah, going to talk about the data in my investigation in Pandora Papers about Magdi Rasikh. He at the beginning, when you deal with the big data like Pandora Papers, yeah, you have to put the names or correctly to reach a result. When you think about have a hypothesis, okay, you have to be organized, especially when you're dealing with huge data like this project. Yes. And what is the story of it? The secret behind Magdi Rasikh. Magdi Rasikh, this in short, the idea investigation revolves around business Magdi Rasikh, who is the father-in-law of the son of the late Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. And he was one of the fat cats in Egypt. There was difficulty to obtaining some data about the website of his company in Egypt in field of natural gas. And I used Wayback Machine website to obtain information about his company and the details of his old contract with the Egyptian government. By direct order, to Rasikh signed a contract with the Egyptian government to supply homes and factories in one of Egypt's governorates with natural gas. But after that, January 2011, in Egypt, revolution in Egypt, Rasikh ran away the country, and Rasikh accused in corruption cases and sentenced to 5 years in prison. At the same time, Rasikh should be in prison. His public representative, Issam Kafafi, was making deals with the Egyptian Ministry of Petroleum and signing a partnership between his company and the Egyptian government as the Russian company Rosneft. This is what the investigation revealed. Rasikh founded the Pellet Energy in 2007 and placed Kafafi as the chairman of the board so that he would not appear in public. I tried to access Kafafi accounts on social media, okay, sites through some websites that track these accounts. We have this Assam Kafati. Yeah. I tried to track his accounts, okay, because I found the story about this deal on one local website in Egypt, but that's not the only proof to prove the hypothesis. We have to get another sources. When I track his social media, I found album of the photos for this meeting on his site, in his account on Instagram. And one of the difficult this investigation to getting the investigation of the public prosecution in Egypt. This is the documents with this is the investigation in Egypt because he accused in the court now, and I used data mining to automate the preparation of the database from the company news and archive and collect all the data from this. And the impact of this investigation: 17 days after the investigation was published, the Cairo Criminal Court decided to arrest and bring Magdi Rasikh to court, accusing him, along with others, of violating the terms of the national gas agreement with the national gas company in Egypt. Thank you so much.